Hello, everybody, and welcome to the True North Audio Podcast. I'm your host, Kiko. Joining me this week, I'm not even going to announce the show episodes anymore. I think these are going to start coming out of order pretty much right away. But joining me today, I have Adam from Fear Before the March of Flames, All Human and Orbs. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm psyched.
Awesome. Now, we're going to be talking today about your first album, or at least the first one that I know of, unless there's any you've put out that you haven't told us about. But we're going to be talking about Odd How People Shake from 2004, which is a bit of a time leap compared to the one Toby just put out a few weeks ago. You know, last time I did this, I'm sitting here with like a Dropbox folder with all these unreleased tracks that I have to like pull up in VLC player. I mean, I could play them on VCV, it'd just be kind of convoluted. But this one, on the other hand, I have a long history of and years of listening to, which is a completely different experience, I think, to something that's only just coming out. I have a lot more history with this album, and you do as well. You were telling me before we started that you probably don't remember most of this at this point. I mean, it was some time ago.
It was a good, I think it was 2003. So yeah, good almost 20 years ago.
I imagine that's got to make you feel a little old.
My hairline makes me feel old. So
that's a mood.
Yes. And it wasn't, so it was our first album that was like picked up and released, but I was in a pop punk band in high school before we did Fear Before. Well, you have to listen to it. Then you say nice.
Heck, I mean, give me a demo. We'll have a good show about that one. We'll see how much of that process you remember. Go way back. So, I mean, this band for me, this brings me back to my days, like my high school bands and stuff, which, I mean, we don't even have demos really. We got like a couple tracks or whatever, but I mean, there's a couple of my bandmates who even got me into this. Like, they were the ones who introduced me. I think they introduced me to Always Open Mouth, and that just hooked me, and then I got into all the other stuff. But I was at least able to be there when the oh wow. I'm embarrassing. I'm sitting here trying to remember the name of one of my favorite records. The one that came out in 2009.
That was just Fear Before.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how I forgot that. It's probably the easiest of the names to remember. Yeah. Like, you wanted to say like "Stay Weird," but it's like, no, that's just one of the tracks on the record.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're all really good, but I have a lot of nostalgia for these ones. I mean, one note that's kind of fun about this one is that this is Chris Crummett, or Crummett. Yeah, this is like way back.
He's a big deal now.
Yeah, well, it's funny too because when I look at his Discogs and stuff, this is usually his first credit, like his earliest credited album, at least. I know he was doing stuff before this, but it's also funny because one of my bandmates actually worked under him for a little bit too, one of my current bandmates. So there's a little connection. I think I'd mentioned that in a text at some point too. So I remember in URM at some point, he had a oh man, you know, what old sessions of mine would you guys like me to bring up? I'm like, man, bring up Odd How People Shake. I want to see what you got there. It's like, I might just kind of do that anyway. You know, I mean, it's like, I think he was saying there weren't that many tracks in his. I mean, also 2004 was before people are doing like 400 track records in Pro Tools and stuff. Well, yeah. I guess you'd have to be in like HD if you're doing that many tracks. But, you know, I mean, before people are doing like the big Devin Townsend size projects and stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, it was very bare bones. Like, because this record was before Always Open Mouth, where I got into programming and like doing like 400 tracks or whatever.
Yeah.
And, this one was like we didn't know what the crap we were doing anyway. Like, and yeah, it was like drums, 2 guitar tracks. I feel like even though I was 20, I was going through puberty. So that's why I suck at screaming on that record. But yeah, it was very, very minimal.
Yeah.
But it was exciting as
I can imagine.
Hell. Yeah. Like as a kid, like driving up to Portland and like someone's paying for you to make a record, which I don't even know if that happens anymore because you can do it out of your basement.
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it was in the last couple records I've done have been out of my laundry room. But it was exciting. Like fun fact, we got signed to Rise Records while we were having dinner at Casa Bonita. And I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I'm not familiar with that.
South Park. South Park made it kind of famous.
Oh man.
But it's like a themed Mexican restaurant where like people dive off 30-foot cliffs and you get tons of sopapillas if you put the flag up and stuff. But yeah, it was very, very exciting for us. Like we were on top of the world. Like
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, what? Like you said, 20 years old or whatever, 19, 20, and that you're barely out of high school, and here you are with a record deal. And this is back when a record deal really meant something too. You know, I mean, it was kind of
exactly
right on that edge where downloading's really starting to take over. But it's definitely, it's definitely a time when you really wanted to be signed. This is before the MySpace bands. This is before all that stuff was going on, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, I can imagine how awesome that must have felt.
I mean, I remember, so we went up to Portland and Anatomy of a Ghost, who we were competing with on, which is now 2 of the guys are in Portugal, the man. We were competing with on mp3.com, and they let us take their house because they were on tour. And oh my God. I love those dudes to death. I would never speak ill of them, but their house was basically you would try to like tiptoe to the bathroom. There was this dog, and they were on tour, but they had one roommate still living there, and they neglected to tell us that their rent was up and overdue.
Oh no.
And there was this dog, and I found out if you put your leg like over the dog, like if you try and even, there's a little dog, but like if you even try and step around him, he would jump and bite. So,
oh no,
when someone was sitting on the couch, we would stick our leg over the couch and get him to jump up and like attack whoever was sitting there. But yeah, that place was. It was a disaster. And I remember the landlord coming over, and we were just like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Because we just need to finish this record. But I'm still good friends. Yeah, I'm still good friends with those like Zach and John to this day.
Was that Anatomy of a Ghost? That was one that I want to say Huey was in. This one that does the peer pleasure.
Dewey, yeah.
Dewey, thank you.
I love him. I did a podcast with him too.
Yeah, he uses one of your songs in the music, or like in the intro or the outro. I think it's the outro song. He uses one of the Fear Before songs. It's a great podcast. If anyone wants to check that out, he's got a ton of amazing interviews.
Where are my royalties?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
No, I love Dewey. He's one of the sweetest dudes ever. I love all those guys. Like that was a good adventure in my life. Like I love those dudes.
I remember some of the stories you were telling from those days too on his talking about some of the crazy tour stories and stuff. And I think that was probably one of the first episodes where you had started openly talking about sexuality as well. I think you had mentioned like telling the story about when you came out to your parents and stuff as well. So there's a lot of great stuff there.
I'm very open about that.
Yeah.
Did I tell the story about? I'm sure Dewey and I talked about it, where I jumped out of our trailer on tour, like naked. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I was tiny and he was huge, and I wanted to give him a good scare, and I succeeded in more ways than one.
I imagine that must have been very shocking.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought some crazy dude's like living in his trailer or something.
Yeah, no. I love those guys. I have so much, like, there's so many friends from back in that era that I miss, and I wish I could have a beer with or hang out and watch the Batman with. Like I love those dudes. That was a very good time and a very awakening time.
Mm-hmm. So it's
I just wish my voice.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I wish my voice didn't suck so bad back then. It probably still sucks now, but it sucked a lot worse then.
You can't expect to, like win a marathon first time you're running, That's, to be fair. I think it's great. Like I said, for me, a lot of great nostalgia here. I don't care. Yeah. I'm here for it. I'm going to listen to this album front to back all the time, man. I mean, this one brings me back. I mean, you were talking about how raw it is track 2. You have that whole moment in track 2 that's just like, I mean, it sounds like it's just like you in the studio with an unplugged electric guitar, just kind of jamming.
Oh yeah. The like after, I think it's before Given to Dreams. Yeah. And yeah, I wanted the mic right up against, it was, oh God, I miss this Telecaster. It was a Aspen White Telecaster. And I was like, I want it right against the strings. I don't want it hooked up. And I don't want to just sing it and get it done. And it was that's a very dark song. It had to do with my little sister. And she's great. Mm-hmm. Just for the record, she's amazing. She's my favorite person in the whole world. But it had to do with something dark, and I was like, yeah, put the mic right to the strings. Like we're not hooking this guitar up. We're not doing an acoustic.
It feels very intimate and in the moment. And honestly, I think that's what I like about it. It is very like there is something about it that just captures a completely raw emotional state, which I love about that. And for me personally, it's kind of one of my favorite moments of, like, I love all kinds of stuff that's going on, but I love that just moment where a lot of this record, it's really fast, it's really heavy, it's really loud, and it just strips it way back to probably the barest point. Like, I mean, you're playing an electric guitar. It's not even an acoustic guitar. You don't even have like the resonance of the body or anything. It's an even smaller sound and an even more intimate moment, even than an acoustic. And so I think that it adds really good contrast, and I think it really moves the album a lot. And that's one of those little stick out details for me. Is there's a lot of dudes who are putting out really heavy music at the time, but I don't feel like as many of them were taking that time to just have those really intimate moments with you. And I think that's really special, personally.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear you say that, because I haven't even thought about that track in forever. And that was a very intimate track for me. And I think I only ever played it once live, and it was in San Diego at Soma. And some technical difficulties happened, and we didn't know what to do. And we just spent a day at the beach, like having a fun day on tour. And I was like, all right, I got this. Like, you guys figure this out. I'll play that. But I think it's the only time I ever played that. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I haven't even thought about that song in forever.
It's been a little while.
Yeah, it was all about how like innocent my little sis was, and like how much I loved her, and like was trying to see the world through her eyes.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, she's my favorite person in the whole world. I've been engaged, and I didn't like the person as much as I love my little sis. So if that tells you anything.
I mean, that's good. It's good to have good relationships with your family and stuff. I mean, I got plenty of friends, especially, you know, friends in the like gay community who don't have any relationship with their family, or they have like one member of their family they're still in touch with, and everyone else is completely, you know, out of their life and stuff. So having that's really special. That's something to really hold on to. I think that's awesome.
I was just talking about that exact issue with someone at work. I'm like, I'm lucky. Like, because I've dated dudes who like they got kicked out of the house and stuff, and my folks were just like, they're like, oh yeah, we know Rupert, like like you're fine. So yeah, it is important, like, because that is I feel for anybody. I don't want to get too off topic, but I feel for anybody.
Oh no, it's fine. I think it all relates to the overall the emotional impact of everything overall. I mean, to be fair, like you said, there's a lot you don't remember about the record, so I think it's fair to also just talk about things that are kind of relevant. I think you had mentioned that like early on, this was a time where you were kind of going through that self-discovery. I have to assume that a lot of that was part of this record in some way, even if subtly.
I think on that one, I'd have to go back to lyrics. I knew when I was 10, but I always hinted at stuff. Like in that first All Human record, I'm like, really? Nobody's picking up on this. But it was something that I was taught to, not by my folks, but by the church, to be ashamed of. So I tried to suppress it, but now this is going to sound really cheesy, but I'm loud and proud. Like I'm happy. Like I like being gay. So
I'd say that's pretty metal,
but I don't, yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I hinted at it. I think Dave did he write the majority of the lyrics for that? No, maybe that was Art Damage. Maybe I wrote the majority of the lyrics, but yeah, I don't know if I was hinting at it yet, but I was definitely there.
Yeah.
I was definitely, I've been gay my whole life. That's just is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I didn't know. I mean, this is a conversation I've had with a lot of like, I'm in the furry fandom. I had a lot of friends in the fandom who are younger than us, and, you know, they don't really remember what that period of time was. But I mean, like for context, for those who are younger, who have not been through that, 2003, the year this record's being written, people are still going to prison for it in Texas. Like it was not nearly as cool or okay as it is now, you know? And so I didn't know, you know, maybe there's some like just frustration with the whole situation that comes out in some of it, whether it's directly or indirectly or anything like that. But I know that, I mean, it's funny. You said you've been hinting at it. You know, I was listening to all this stuff when I was in high school. Excuse me. I was listening to all this stuff when I was in high school. And there was a lot of stuff I was relating to and just kind of picking up on. I didn't know why I was, you know, relating to the music so much. And when I heard you talking about it again, I think it was the Peer Pleasure podcast, it was kind of one of those moments where it clicked in a way that's like, that's why. That's what I'm relating. It's like, this is why this is kind of nailing that emotional state for me in a different way. You know, I mean, you and I have gone through completely different stuff, but I feel like we resonate creatively. That's kind of one of the reasons we know each other, actually. One of the reasons I was able to reach out to you is the like creative resonance. Yeah,
sometimes it takes like a relationship or a friendship, like, well, I guess a friendship is a relationship, but to kind of just make you go, okay, if you're that good of a friend to support me through this, then I got this. Like, I freaking got this.
Yeah.
Because I used to do the thing, I used to call it the yellow light game. Because I come from a heavy Catholic upbringing. And again, my folks were cool as hell.
Yeah.
But when I would ride my bike to work, or to school, sorry, I'm still in work mode.
I know how that goes. I mean, a lot of people work in school too, but
yes, I would do this thing. Like, I'd be riding my bike to school at like 10 years old, and I'd be coming up on a light, and I'm like, if you don't make it through this yellow light before it turns red, you're gonna turn out gay. Like, I used to punish my brain. I called it the yellow light game. And I knew when I was 10, like, yeah, I just like dudes, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a creep. I'm not like a weirdo. This is who I am.
You're not radio.
Well, I'm kind of, I'm a weirdo. Not a creep. Yeah.
Hey, stay weird.
But, yeah, stay weird.
So I had to bring it back there, just.
Yes. So the whole reason we got the record deal to sign with Rise Records was Anatomy of a Ghost was on that label. And like I said, we were competing on mp3.com. So they were coming to town, and we're like, well, let's play a show together. And I'm seriously talking like I was 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we'll come play a show. And we set up a show in the middle of freaking nowhere, like in a shed. And it was awesome. Like,
that sounds great.
It went off. Like, it was back in the day of that kind of where you could do that.
Yeah.
But in the middle of the show, their tour manager and his girlfriend took their van and left. So the show ends, and we're like, well, what the shit are we going to do? So at first, Mikey, our bassist, hosted them, but his parents were like, no. And then my parents, like I said, were super cool, and they're like, yeah, they can stay here for a bit. They had Thanksgiving with us. Like,
that sounds like my parents. My mother has always been very inviting to all of my friends. So it was one of, like, if something like that had happened to me, all of my buddies would be like on mattresses and blankets and cots in the basement, all hanging out together.
Yep.
Like, just come on,
my mom.
You're joining us for Thanksgiving. Welcome. I mean, she was sending food to one of my bandmates after he moved to Oregon for a while too, just like as a courtesy. Like, she's very giving in that way. And it sounds like your family has similar thing to mine in that way. They're just like, yeah, your friends are family.
Yeah, that's my mom to a T. Like, she still asks about John from Portugal, the man. Like, and I'm like, he's a Grammy winner. Like,
yeah,
like he's doing all right. But yeah, they stayed for like, it was at least a week, and we broke into an ostrich farm. I don't tell the ostrich farmer, but like got chased by ostriches. Like, that is the era I remember when it comes to Odd How People Shake. That's why there's ostriches in the artwork in the
really?
CD.
It's just sort of a fun background kind of just like bit of history. It's just I guess you could almost call it like an internal meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like an inside joke that nobody got. It was just between us and Anatomy of a Ghost. But that's the era I remember. But yeah, that show went off. Like, oh, that was a fun one. And that was right at the beginning of Fear Before. So,
man, I wish I was there.
It was crazy.
I think I would have been a little young for that show, but
yeah. Yeah, if I was 18 or 19, yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like 12. Yeah.
I think
That would have
my
blown my
little
mind.
brother. I think my little brother came up and did guest vocals, or at least he moshed. But
Nice.
uh,
Nice. You got to at least have the
yeah,
pit. That much is
yeah,
bare minimum. No, that reminds me. I mean, I came up in like the Salt Lake scene back in the day, and it was also pretty intense. You know, it was also the kind of scene where you'd throw down in a shed, and we had a bunch of those little
yeah.
venues where it's like it just hole in the wall. Nobody can find it unless you've already been there and know somebody who's been there.
Yeah.
And you know, it'd be like whatever Chelsea Grin or whoever or Gaza, one of those guys will be playing, and you know, you'll just show up with a few of your buddies.
Did you say Gaza?
Yeah, I have a story. I didn't actually end up meeting them, but there was definitely a show that Gaza played that's one of those I tell the story about this show all the time. Is I went to see one of my high school buddies, and it was like my high school buddies, and they're opening up this tiny ass little show. It's like, you know, I mean, I think the biggest crowd at that show that night was maybe like 30 people. And, you know, the guys who were playing were Gaza, Bird Eater, I think Cryptic Warning was at that show. And then there were some touring guys. There was Revocation, Hypnos, and the Binary Code. And that's Hypnos with a 5 instead of an S. If you're not familiar with those guys, telling the listeners, and you too, I think I've told you about them, but they're this like crazy prog art metal band from France, and they do not get enough love. And I have to evangelize them because they've come to the US like twice, and it's always been a disaster. And I want to see them without having to fly to Europe. That show was crazy.
But Gaza, okay, I'm gonna try. It's been a long time, but Gaza, I think Matt was the bass player, right?
Off the top of my head, I think so. It's been a long time
because we stayed with him, and then tall, skinny dude who was in. Oh, he was in another band that was on Rise Records before that. But yeah, I haven't heard that name in forever. But they were always very kind to us. Yeah, and that was that era again. I think it was Matt. I cannot remember the singer's name. I want to say it began with a C, but I don't think it'll come to me.
I feel terrible never actually remembering names half the time. It's dude, one of those like
as a bartender,
getting old.
Like, yeah, it's the hardest thing.
Oh man, that was the thing for me when I was working at the liquor store. I'd have to tell people all the time, like, listen, it's nothing personal, but understand I am not going to recognize you unless I live with you or work with you. Like, I don't care if you're in here every other day buying alcohol. There are thousands and thousands of people coming through. I don't remember anyone. I'm sorry.
It's so hard. Like, if at the bar, like, people will be like, "Oh, I'm Mug Club," and I'm like, sorry, I have such a bad mouth.
No, I get it.
Like, I'm like, I know you, but I can't remember your name. I can't remember if you get a mug. Like,
I'll get like I'll have a face that I can place or whatever. Like, honestly, there are people where sometimes I don't even remember them. I just remember their drink, you know, like, you know, you get one dude and it's oh yeah, you're the Jack Daniel's honey guy.
Yeah, that's easy. Like, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's just one of those like dumb things that happens when you work in service like that.
What's the venue? It probably doesn't exist anymore in Utah. It was in the basement. Like, there was like an that was like, I always loved playing Salt Lake. Like, I know it was like dangerous because there was all those stories with hate breed and stuff.
Yeah.
And people getting violent.
I've seen some of those shows, man. That was a real thing for a while. Those like crazy brawls that would break out during whatever set or whatever. It'd be, you know, some dudes have a beef or something, and it would just be like devolve to the point where people are like going at each other with cymbal stands or something, and the bouncers are working overtime to boot people. One of my more troublesome bandmates at the time was one of the guys who would get into those fights. Is he made a few enemies in the scene.
Yeah. we always had the best shows in Salt Lake. That was one of my favorite places to play. Like, I loved playing Salt Lake. There was a place, and like when we were touring, venues were always getting shut down.
Yeah.
But I remember this one place. Gosh, it's been so long.
It said was it just a basement, or was it a venue that had like multiple stages? I'm thinking of, I want to say it was the Depot. There's like a place kind of on the tracks downtown-ish that had like a basement area that hosted a lot of those types of shows.
This was like back in the day.
Right.
So it probably shut down. But then we used to play this place, and I can't remember the name. It was like something box, maybe. But one time we played there, like, we played there multiple times, and Bert from the Used,
oh heck,
got into the van, and I was like learning Radiohead songs from my tab book, and he's like, "Let's write a song together," and I was like, dude, I don't know, and he was like, "Nah, let's just do it." And I think he had his Chihuahua with him, and I was like, okay. And so I like hit like A minor and like F and just let him sing. And I was like, dude, like I told the guys, I was like, Bert from the Used just got in here and like wrote a song. And I was
like, yeah, whatever, dude. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we ended up touring with them, or doing a few shows with them in Mexico years later.
Oh, nice.
And nicest dudes ever.
I've never had the chance to meet them, but I've known plenty of dudes who've hung out with them. They are, again, they're part of that Salt Lake scene. I mean, they came from here.
Yeah.
And I have only heard good things about those guys.
I was so freaked out though, because I'm like, okay, I bought what's the album called? Oh God, I keep doing it. I'm sorry.
There we go. We're trying to remember the name of an album once. Like, what is the name of thing? What is it? Welcome to Old Man Cast, where a couple of older millennials sit here and just try to picture something from their past.
What's their first album called?
Oh man, I can't remember off the top of my head either, man.
I listen to it. I seriously listen to it all the time. Like, especially when I'm sad, I'll be like, I guess it's okay. I puked the day away. But I can't think of the name of the album.
It's a classic.
But anyway,
record.
he was in the van, and I was just like shaking nervous. I'm like, this is a celebrity to me. This is
yeah.
I've been listening to this for years. But yeah, we ended up playing shows with them later, and nicest dudes ever.
That's kind of one of the fun things about it, is I've talked about this with people in the past too. This is one of those, like, I'll talk to guys who are like really just starting in music and everything, and just like, man, like most of the guys you look up to, most of these guys that are like big famous dudes to you, they're just people, they got their own stuff going on. They got their own lives going on. They got their own things they're into that they like to do in their free time. And, like a lot of musicians have hobbies outside of music, and, like getting to know these guys, it's going to be like getting to know like anybody, like any dude you want to hang out with, and that's one of those things, like, just because, like, you're one of those guys to me that felt like a big celebrity. Like, I was in high school jamming on your band. You guys were a big deal to me, and like all my bandmates were listening to you. Like, my buddy who got me into you guys was like super, super into it and everything. And for me, it was like, oh man, these guys are awesome. Like, the millions of bands we always talked about touring with, like, dude, it'd be so cool to tour with XYZ, like Under Oath or Slipknot or The Bled or Fear Before. Those are our things now. And now we're just like, casually chatting here on the podcast as we just happen to like know each other, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because we always had a very like approachable demeanor. Like, we were never willing to pretend like we were better than anyone else. We were always like, yeah, like, we're just people that are lucky to be playing music.
Yeah.
And I think if we like approached it differently, maybe, but who knows? But yeah, I I can honestly say there's only one guy in my 10 years of touring that I really couldn't stand. And I won't, obviously I won't
Yeah, of course.
name it, but like we always were like approachable and just like, we're no better than you. We're just up here lucky to be doing this. And we had that mindset from day one. Like we made it a point to just treat, like, I don't even like saying fans because but I guess we had fans, but treating them like an equal, like that's because they were like, we're all the same. And I think that kind of did us in a little bit, or maybe we just put out too many bad records that didn't sell. I don't, but yeah, we were always like that. We're like, you treat people with respect and like hang out behind the merch table. Like that's just how we were. Like, and I still appreciate that.
I mean, early on too, that can make such a good impression. I mean, like I said, it was that same show. When I went to the table to meet Binary Code, their specific example. I think it was Jesse who was at the table at the time, and you could tell he was tired, man. It was like a tiny show, like 20 people, and he traveled all the way out from New Jersey to be here, and he's got these other dudes with him who are all the way in from France, and they're at this little hole in the wall venue, and like nobody's showing up, and it's like an hour between sets to set up, and you can tell he was tired, but he was still just super cool, super gracious. He was, just like chatting with him was really awesome, and of course, I was still very young, so in my head, it's like, oh man, it must be so cool touring and everything. And I mean, I still think there is a lot to say about it, even at that level. But, I mean, for him, he was definitely just like, man, I think that night especially is like, man, I'm ready to just go home and sleep, And now Jesse he's another one of those like big deal dudes. Like, I mean, I look at that show, Hypnos is one of those like artist kind of bands, like a lot of the people are really into the music like them. And you got Jesse's been like a composer now, and he's been doing stuff for all kinds of like video games and movie and TV. He's even worked on some of the Marvel stuff, and again, this dude who was just playing some tiny little venue back in the day. And the Revocation guys, I think were nominated for a Grammy the same year as Portugal. I think that was the same one.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Daniel Johns once, and I've been listening to Silverchair since Frog Stomp. And I met him in Belgium, and he could have been a total jerk to me. Like, he didn't have any reason. Like, we were backstage and, just at the like band bar backstage, and he could have been a total jerk. And I was like, this is like one of my heroes, like got me into music. It was so cool, man. Yeah. Like, I was like, marry me, dude. Like, he was so cool.
Yeah. Speaking of influence, Toby and I talked about influence on the last episode because we were going really in depth, kind of track to track on his. I mean, it was really fresh. He'd only just finished it. But, we were talking about how a lot of guys, even if you're doing metal and stuff, you're not always just listening to really, really heavy music. Like, and I wanted to bring that up because one of the things you and I connected on was a sort of a jointly agreed best album, or one of the best albums that's ever been put out. And it is not an album that you would expect to influence a band like Fear Before, especially if you're listening to this first record. And that is August and Everything After, the debut record from Counting Crows.
Don't get me started.
I will.
Don't get me started. Yeah. That album changed my life. That album, I mean, I have the tattoo to prove it, my first tattoo. Because I sat there and was listening to it on cassette.
Mm-hmm.
That's how old I am. And just like was like listening to the lyrics, and he's a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, his name's Adam too. And I was like, yep, I'm getting a tattoo. And my mom cried about it. But yeah, I love that record. I love the second one too. After that,
absolutely. I dig the stuff after it, but it's I feel like there's just kind of a lightning in a bottle moment. There's just something about August and everything after, and Recovering the Satellites, just really hits a certain way. And those both have a lot of nostalgia for me. I mean, I grew up on those records. Those are records my whole family listened to. Those are among our favorite road trip records and stuff. So it's like I have tons of memories of like going out camping and stuff, and I'm just like way out in the woods just sitting there jamming out, or way out in the desert just listening to, you know, whatever, Mr. Jones or Omaha or any of that stuff.
Omaha. To truth be Perfect Blue Buildings. And then what's the last track?
Man, I didn't even remember the name of your self-titled record. Don't ask me to help me. That's the one that has the poem that they got their name from.
Yes.
Yeah. Was on 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for...
Yep.
Yeah.
I love...
Yeah, I remember you posting that on Instagram at one point, and I was like, the one guy's like, you know this one.
So I only let myself listen to that record when I'm really down, because it's so good. It's so great that when I need to pick me up, like other than cuddling my dog, like I need to listen to a record that snaps me out of it. Like I love.
Again, that's kind of one of those things we're related on, because I remember us talking about that. I remember, again, like I had picked up very quickly on your socials that you were really into that record, because again, one of my all-time favorites. I know that album like front to back, and like I can sing along to every song. And so of course I immediately recognized anytime you're posting lyrics from it. And it's the same thing. Like that's one of my, like, when I'm feeling down records. That is like I'm in a place, I need to like light a candle, turn off all the lights, and just kind of sit there and brood to Counting Crows.
100%. Like, and I don't want to ever get sick of that record. Not that I think I could.
I know I can't, because I've had the opportunity and I have not.
It's like my favorite ice cream. I don't have it every night. Like, when I need it, then I need it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about okay.
Please.
So off the top of your head, 2 favorite records that really influence you.
Oh man. It's crazy because it kind of like, it really depends on my mood, because I have such an eclectic taste. Like if I'm feeling more upbeat, it's going to be
I said off the top of your head.
Oh, top of my head. Right now, I'm going to have to say The Algorithm. This one Toby and I talked about. They're really cool. Another French one. The Algorithms. What am I thinking? I don't know what's happening to me today. Like no album is in my head. Like there's no memory of any title anywhere. I don't know what's going on. Episode can't remember the name of anything we're talking about. Polymorphic Code. No, sorry. It's the one that came out in 2016. Listeners will know it's the one that has like boot and stuff on it. It's got like a nerdy computer name, I think, off the top of my head. So yeah, the Algorithms 2016 record. It's gonna come to me like an hour from now or something, I'm sure. And then Counting Crows, August and Everything After, honestly, is one of my all-time favorites.
That's cheating. We already talked about that.
All right. Not counting that one, I might say right now I'd have to give it then to Tesseract's Altered State.
Okay.
At the current moment.
All right.
Yeah. That's a really, really, really good record. It just, I mean, start to finish. That's another one. I can put that on, and it's one of those records that like, God, the problem is I can gush for hours about so many records. I could probably just all and all and all. I mean, like, get me started on like Hypnos, like any of their records, because they're one of those bands that, like, they know how to write a record that is an entity outside of just a collection of songs. They're way too good at that. You know, like, they're another one of my all-time favorite bands. I evangelize them. You know, I mean, even like I said, Always Open Mouth or Catholic Guilt, those are both on my favorites. I mean, Fear Before, the self-titled, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Stop flattering me. Stop flattering me.
I'm not lying, though. I'm not lying. I mean, you've seen the artwork. I've done so many pictures just inspired by listening to those records and going like, oh, man, I really resonate with this line.
I have it. I still have. I showed you that pictures hanging in my new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is still so weird to me. That gives me major imposter syndrome.
I want to get it tattooed so bad. Where's the money at?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you my 2 albums that come to mind just like at the snap. And then I'm going to ask you a question.
All right. Go for it.
Sparkle Horse, It's a Wonderful Life. And Blonde Redhead, Misery is a Butterfly.
Nice.
Have you heard either of those?
I've heard one of those. I've heard the second one. Yeah. I've not heard the Sparkle Horse one. Yeah.
Oh my God. So he put, well, I don't want to get dark on this podcast, but he offed himself over a woman in like 2010, I think.
Right.
Because she sent him a nasty text. He was like, he's one of my favorite artists. But now I lost my train of thought because I got all sad. Have you listened to the new Kendrick?
I have not listened to the new Kendrick. That's one of those, like, there's so much stuff on my list right now. I'm way behind on music. It's stupid. Like, there's a ton.
So
I really need to hear it. I hear it's amazing.
You don't need to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. But there's a track called Auntie Diaries.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, that tackles some things, and he's gonna get backlash for it. I know it. Like, I think he already is.
Right.
But because he says the F word. But
right.
It's hitting, like, he's hitting it on the head. Like,
yeah,
he is speaking some truth. And
Kendrick has never been one to shy away from, like, tougher subjects either. I mean, just listen to Pimp a Butterfly. Like, that album gets into some dark territory for sure.
Yeah. You should, even if you don't have time to listen to the whole album, listen to Auntie Diaries, because it is, it crushed me. I cried. I cried at it. Like, I was like, I feel this. Like, I love Kendrick.
Yeah.
I'm a big hip hop fan, so
Kendrick's awesome. Kendrick has a lot of really great stuff. And I mean, heck, I remember when wow, here I am again trying to remember. I think apparently To Pimp a Butterfly is the only record I can remember today.
Yeah, that's the only title you got.
It's the only one I've gotten so far.
What
am I thinking? Oh, it was just it was Damn. That was the one. The one that came out in like 2017 or whatever. That
good.
It was you couldn't avoid that record. I mean, for good reason. It was fantastic, but it was
so good
everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but well deserved.
Yeah, Kendrick absolutely. Like I said, he does not shy away from heavy subject matter. You know, he's very, very happy to speak his mind. And that's one of the things I respect about his art especially is I mean, I am a sucker for artists who speak their truth, you know, and I mean, sometimes their truth is not worth speaking, but, you know, in case of Kendrick, it is very much worth speaking. I think that his stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that Tribe record, I know it's a little dated, but came out like, you heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that too. Like, I love Tribe. I love Kendrick. I'm a huge hip hop fan. I probably listen to hip hop and sad music than I do anything heavy.
Yeah. And I mean, you just make good heavy music despite, or probably because of that, honestly, I think. Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of those things too. Like, your influences don't have to sound anything like what you make. I mean, again, this is something that the listeners will know. Toby and I talked about this on the last episode. It's just like, part of making great music is just letting your guilty pleasures influence you and lead you, even if they don't lead you to anything that sounds remotely like that thing. I mean, I think he joked about like the next record he does is probably going to have some influence from like the Bluey soundtrack, which, if you've not heard any of that, I mean, it's a really just fun, lighthearted cartoon, lots of really lighthearted music. That's not an influence you're going to expect for a guy who's writing this like really aggressive, heavy music, but that's kind of the fun of it, And I mean, I think that's probably a good question I've got, going back to Odd How People Shake. What were you listening to back then? Like, what was your, like, were you always listening to just whatever? Or did you go through what a lot of the heavy kids go through, where you're like, no, I only listen to heavy music. I can't listen to any of that soft stuff, but secretly I like Counting Crows.
No, I mean, I am still very into Blood Brothers. I would say they're one of my favorite bands.
Mm-hmm.
They might be my favorite band of all time, but no, like I kind of like, even like Art Damage, our heaviest record. Like, I guess I'm not answering your question. But Art Damage was Cardigans, The Streets, and who was the third one? Because I always, like, Cardigans, The Streets gives you an idea. With Odd How People Shake, Blood Brothers was definitely there. I can't remember who else, but I always listen to sad, chill music. Like, that's my vibe. Like, that's my thing. Like, I mean, I've just gotten into like Motown recently. Like,
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's like my playlist at work. So, and that's a new thing for me. It just depends. I didn't get into hip hop until I was boxing in Long Beach.
Right.
Like now I'm obsessed with Nas, Tribe. It just depends.
Which Nas? Nas OG Nas or Lil Nas X?
Oh, I love Lil Nas X. I think that was my favorite record of last year. Don't judge me.
I mean, I'm not judging.
I think he, like, the production on that, and like his, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like his, like, very forward, comfortable attitude.
Yeah.
Like,
again,
brazen.
An artist who speaks his truth,
Yeah.
He's out there being
just
him.
Like, yep. He's just like, here I am. I love Lil Nas X, and I love that record. That record, there's some songs on there that made me cry too.
I think it's very refreshing hearing like really major artists who are in the queer space in different ways. I mean, it's not new per se. There's definitely older guys too, but I think there's something refreshing about hearing guys who are just brashly, openly about it. Again, because coming from that like slightly older generation, remembering when like it was really not cool, It was really dangerous being out for a long time. Like seeing guys who can just be like, yeah, screw it, I'm gay. Like here's my thing, Todrick Hall, he's another one of those dudes,
That makes me like him even more, but I really do like his record for the record.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I appreciate his
you like the artist and the art.
Because I'm not gonna lie, like being a white dude, it's like a lot easier. Like he's a gay black dude in the freaking like view of like he's a celebrity. Like everybody sees.
Yeah.
And I think he's like a ballsy dude, and I support everything he does because I don't always support his fashion sense. Most of it.
That's fair. That, I mean, to be fair, it's everyone's going to have their own. Fashion is a matter of taste, you know. It's
yes. But no, I'm a huge fan of that record. I think, God, there's some tracks on there that just rip. What was it? My other favorite record? I don't know. So I'm getting tired. I'm getting close to
trying to remember the records again. There we are. So like what other hip hop is your big ones right now? What are the ones that you're just you recommend to everybody? Big or small?
I can't pull up my phone because I'm talking on my phone. I don't know. I don't think I've heard anything.
I remember you sent me a playlist that had Juice WRLD. I remember you were jamming that.
Oh, yes, I did like him. That's a really tragic subject.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard to talk about music without getting a little tragic. Unfortunately, I mean, as you know, having been in it so long, music is it's one of those industries that has a lot of damaged people, and unfortunately, there's a lot of tragic stories. You know, I mean, I feel like we're losing people all the time, but I feel like we kind of have to just celebrate them as much as we can, you know, as difficult as it is.
Yeah. I mean, that dude, he was writing about some tragic stuff, and he was going through something. I just wish there was someone there that was like, yo, like don't do what you're about to do, because I really liked his stuff. It was a different type of hip hop for me.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about sad stuff.
Yeah, but of course.
Vince Staples. Do you like Vince Staples?
I don't know if I'm familiar. I'll have to put that on my playlist.
What? Long Beach Pride. Yeah, he's from North Side Long Beach. Nice. I was living in South Side. He's awesome. But yeah, I think that Kendrick is my focus right now.
Nice.
I don't think anything that's hit my radar recently. Oh wait, there was some
Jam Lupe Fiasco or Tech Nine.
What is it?
Lupe Fiasco or Tech Nine. Couple very different dudes, but.
Yeah, I've never gotten into them.
Familiar, just having to.
I mean, I know who they are.
Okay, yeah.
I'm still on my '90s hip hop, and then getting into it.
I bet Tech was '90s. Yeah, I definitely think of him as later, but apparently he's been kicking around since like '95 or whatever.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think how old school he actually is.
Yeah, huh? I don't think I've heard any other hip hop recently that got me. I mean, this isn't new by any means, but a running joke when I was in Fear before, like I'd have headphones in, and they'd be like, Rupert, what's going on? And I would just say, I'm just listening to Eminem. He's the only one that gets me. I love Eminem. I love Eminem.
I think Eminem appeals to a lot of the guys in the heavy scene. Like, listening to heavy music or not, Eminem
He's so
just sort
angry.
He just connects with that, I think, for a lot of people.
He's so angry.
I think it also helps that he was one of the Interscope dudes, too. Like, you know, he was part of that scene with the, like, Marilyn Mansons and the Nine Inch Nails and all the other, like, angry industrial music and stuff, too. I think a lot of dudes got into him in that scene, too.
Yeah, I think so. It was definitely, but I loved hearing him like just yell and be angry, and I'm like, yeah, I'm angry too. Like,
one of the ones I've been listening to quite a bit, and it is a newer one, but it's one of the ones one of my buddies in Alaska got me into, is Tribe Called Red. They're really, really cool. I think it's a trio. I think it's three of them. They actually just played a show here, which I missed. I feel really awful about that, because I really want to catch them at some point. But yeah, they're a Canadian trio who do a lot of like really cool, like a lot of, again, they're another one of those ones that actually like talks about real subjects and stuff too. And again, it's like their truth. It's not, they're not talking about the stuff that the guys in like SoCal are talking about or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're really good, and they got kind of a mix of that like older style, some kind of modern stuff going on, but they totally have their own voice, and I love what they're doing. So they're one I recommend. That's one I've been jamming a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one more, but again, I guess this is the podcast of forgetting albums.
Well, people hopefully just have enough context. They can search for the important bits, like what did the algorithm put out in 2016? I love that I can remember the year of it, but I can't remember the album. I do remember though that I was jamming it like right at the same time as like Past Life Regression came out, and
is that right?
Oh, there you go. That's 2 I can remember. And then the second All Human, which, wow, how do I forget that one? Oh man, this is a really embarrassing podcast for me. I apparently am just I'm just revealing that I have early onset Alzheimer's or something.
Would love to talk about the last All Human.
Yeah. I intend to actually have like an episode where we really get you on. Like I said, when I text you, I want to get you and Brian together on, because I think it'd be really cool to like, get both perspective. But I mean, like if you have one question I have, one of the questions I brought up with Toby, because he had just put out his record. So the question for him was like, what are you going to do differently going forward? Like you've learned lessons from this record going forward. What are you going to do? But I mean, Odd How People Shake was ages ago. What did you learn, and what do you think? What do you think you've learned from that has made the All Human records what they are, if anything, or if it's just so far gone that the lessons have been learned and unlearned?
Wait, were you asking me a question or asking me about getting me and Brian on together?
I was asking you if you were going to, or sorry, from your experience on Odd How People Shake, what would you say is your experience? Or sorry, what would you say you learned from making that record that you did differently on later records? Like what about it changed the way you make music or write a record or put things together, if anything?
I mean, I don't really know if there's a way to answer that, because you just learn as you go. And like I was working with like my homies, so like you kind of just adjust together, I think. And once I started doing like solo stuff, then it was just me. But I think Odd How People Shake, I learned I had some great friends, and we were gonna try and tour the world together and see where it goes from there,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very much like Odd How People Shake is a lot more about the journey in a lot of ways. It's it's very much just like that raw emotional experience of you and your buddies make music together.
Yeah. We were all so grateful at the time, like, and also young and naive. And that's not a bad thing. Like, we're kids. But I think we kind of just learned, let's try and do this together, see if we can make it work. I think that's all there was to it, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you have like any of it written before you went in, or was it very much like, was it one of those records you just kind of write as you're in the studio?
Oh no, we wrote it all before we got in there. I remember laying on the floor while Dave, the singer, was on my bed and like hashing out the last of the lyrics. Like it was all written. I mean, there was little things, but yeah, it was written.
You had it ready to go. You weren't going to be doing any crazy, like, here's 1,000 takes to figure out what this song is.
No. We were ready. Oh, I was just saying I'm trying to think if there's anything we improvised, and I'm like, I mean, I'm sure there was little guitar parts and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
but I think I think that song we spoke about earlier, like that mic to the uh, electric guitar was improvised, but I think that's it.
yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, the album feels very constructed. But I mean, sometimes you don't know. I've definitely heard stories of dudes who put it in these like really crazy put together records that they end up like half writing in the studio. Like, no, I had some riffs and then we just went in and I don't know, we had, you
Nah,
know,
I'm I'm too what's the word? Like neurotic, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. No, I get that. I think Toby and I are very much the same way, and that we're like when we write a record, we really hash it out before we commit to the final recordings. And like we do the demos real quick. We try to like commit and really make sure that the ideas stick and make sense early on. So if it's not sticking right away, usually it's not going to stick for us long term. But we're kind of the same way. We'll get like a quick thing kind of put together. This originally started as like a songwriting competition project. So it was like, you know, we had to get the song written, recorded, mixed, mastered in like 2 weeks or whatever. But then we go back and we kind of sit through and like really make it nice. And that's when we get into that like neurotic period. We're like, no, okay, we're going to like really think through how the guitar tone works or how the like lyrics are laid out or how, what, like whatever details we want to make sure we have and sound good to us. And that's kind of our process. And then we
Yeah,
start like committing the final recordings. And of course, everyone in the band is a producer. Like I said, like one of our dudes worked under Chris at one point, you know, so it's one of those we're easily able to kind of put our stuff together, but we still have one of our outside dudes actually doing the mixing.
yeah. I think the only thing that was improvised was I wrote the piano part
Mm,
on guitar, and Chris played it because I can't play piano. I'm terrible.
that's the one at the end of the record, right?
Yeah, and like in like the interludes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wrote that on guitar, but like I said, I can't play piano to save my life. I've tried really hard,
Yeah.
but I I wrote it, and he had to run an electrical cord all the way like from the studio into his house where his piano was, and he did that. But I think that
Nice.
was the only thing. But most of
Yeah.
it was written. So
So very much, I assume it was like stuff you guys are doing live and playing around with, in addition to stuff that you were like putting together for the final album when it finally, like when the time came to actually put it together.
yeah, it was all set. I don't think there was. I think everything was written. I'm trying to think if there was a song that. Nah, it was all set.
Makes sense. You think
I
that?
mean, maybe.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe like a few extra lyrics here and there, but
Yeah.
I think that it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were nervous kids. We were trying to. We
You
just
wanted
got
to rule the
signed.
world.
We
You know,
were,
you wanted you wanted a good record, and you wanted to go on all the best tours, and everybody needs to love it.
yeah, we were just trying to make something that made people happy, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you succeeded. I mean, all my buddies who were jamming it out were certainly loving it. Like I said, it definitely inspired my band. We were definitely not nearly as put together, and even later bands were really not nearly as put together. I've always been really bad at keeping a band organized, and a lot of times even just doing my part. But yeah, I mean, for us, it all felt very professional. You know, I mean, like I can listen to it now with the experience I have and go, yeah, this is a young band and this is a young producer, and they're all kind of working together and creating something that's going to define their careers in different ways, but it's still early on. Like, you know, listen to it. I'm not hearing what eventually became Orbs and All Human or even later Fear Before. but there's still that kind of seed. There's that like little bit of the root that's starting to sprout out, and you can start to hear kind of what would eventually become all those other things. Would you say that it was easier or harder or just different doing like an album with a band versus like the solo stuff you were doing?
It's easy to be solo. If I had a report card, I don't know if you ever got report cards, but doesn't play well with others. So it's easier, but not across the country. But
yeah. Well, I mean, part of the reason I asked that is it is one of those like you guys. I mean, this feels like an album that's made by a band who's in the same room. They're you guys are all together. You're doing your thing. You're all playing together. Sorry, that's the dogs. Dogs are having their dinner meltdown.
My dog's staring at me right now.
We have a little border collie who's just she's adorable, but she's real loud. She's real noisy.
Coda is staring at me right now. Like I'm like, Bubs, go outside. Go outside.
That's actually really funny. My old roommate used to call his dog Bubba's. He had the same little pet name.
She's my Bubba. It's been 12 and a half years. Like
yeah. That's I think about the same for my husky. Got her in 2010. Heck,
dude, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Oh, that makes me feel old. Yeah, she's been dealing with some cancer stuff this year, and it's been pretty rough, but she's doing good right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm
happy. We're trying to give her the best we can. She's definitely been through a lot lately.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
But she is looking at. I wish we were on video because I would send you a picture. She looks like a jackass right now. Like she's like smiling, and I'm like, okay, yes, we're gonna watch a movie soon. Like
we're gonna chill, we're gonna hang out. I still love you.
Yes,
we're still friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I freaking love dogs.
Yeah. Like I said, dogs are the best people.
Yes, exactly.
If you could just have them on the records, it'd be way easier.
She seriously just like grinning and staring. I'm like, leave me alone for like another few.
It's okay, soon. So yeah, as I was saying there before the interruption.
Sorry.
No, it's my dogs are the ones interrupting me. Yeah, the thing I noticed listening to Odd How People Shake is it feels like it is a band in a room. It is you guys performing together in a sense. Like even if it's tracked separately, it feels cohesive in the way that a band that like works and plays together is cohesive. Whereas like you were doing All Human and Orbs and stuff, that stuff is all like long distance, which is kind of the way we do it with our band. I mean, like my business partner's in the UK, like one of our bandmates is in Germany, like we got dudes all over the world. But we're also, I'm not gonna say we're not touring, we kind of are. We have like a core group in the band that plays shows and stuff, but like overall there's not the expectation that everyone in the band has to tour or perform, just the ones who want to. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a very different experience, and I feel like in some ways that can kind of inform your songwriting decisions, because I imagine there's a lot of things you do on both records that kind of happen as a natural result of not being in the room or being in the room with the other people you're writing with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we were just kids, like excited as hell to have a record deal, and everything was like we didn't know what we were getting into, and like we just went for it. We dove in head first.
Yeah.
So, and I don't regret it by any means. But I mean, like I said, I wish my voice had gone through puberty at the time.
Yeah.
But like,
Man, nobody really likes their own voice. I feel, it's just that's one of those like weird intimate thing. I've never been happy with my voice, even just speaking, even over all the years.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing, but
Yeah,
we did it and we were excited. And I mean, it got us on Warped Tour. Like,
yeah,
it did cool things for us. So
yeah. You guys had quite the run for a long time. I know. I mean, I still know people who are like, yo, Adam, when's Fear Before coming back or whatever. It's like, man, I can't answer that for you. Like, come on. But I mean, I know there are people out there still just holding on to the hope of another record or another show or whatever, because I mean, you guys had an impact. You had an impact on a lot of our lives. Speaking as a fan, speaking for a moment, not as, the host or whatever, but as somebody who grew up on your records and stuff. You guys had a real impact and a real following.
that's very, very flattering. I don't know how to respond to that. That's like that's very flattering. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I was going to say that does bring me to the point. If you want to talk about it, obviously, if you don't, that's fine too. But you were mentioning before we started recording that you were thinking about kind of finishing up this record and more or less retiring from music.
Yeah, I kind of just want so I have this record
Mm-hmm.
and I had like all these, like, I don't like to say celebrities, but
Right.
amazing singers from my past that were gonna be on it, but
Adele, Kendrick Lamar.
no. I wish. Adele,
That'd be
please.
sick.
Yeah.
I pay good money to hear what you guys make together. All three of you, especially. Like one song, Adele, All Human, and Kendrick Lamar together for the first time.
God. Oh my gosh. I would die.
That'd be really, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? It's just like, where do you go from there? Like you've peaked. There you go. You kind of have to retire after that.
Yes. But we have the drums and bass all recorded from a studio. But I just got to make the time to go do guitar and vocals, and then try and get everybody back on board. Cause I literally had like Tommy from BT Bam, John from Portugal, Mark from Bear vs. Shark. I had a bunch of people lined up, and
that's awesome. Yeah.
COVID just kind of screwed it all up.
Yeah, so. I was going to ask, because I feel like, I mean, you've been working on it for a little bit on and off, and I feel like I remember you like sharing things with me or like talking about it before all that started going down.
Yeah.
I figured that was probably one of the factors that really slowed everything down.
Yeah. It totally screwed everything up. But we'll see. But yeah, it'll probably be the last thing I do. Maybe, who knows?
Hey, if you need some cool, just like weird synth stuff, I might know a guy just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Who knows? I might get in a different mood, but
I find creativity can be kind of weird like that. Sometimes you just need a break for a while, and then I don't know, you start getting hungry for it again. That was like, I got that way with visual art for a while. I mean, I kind of just like, I hit a wall, and I just like, I mean, I love doing this and I do it for my friends sometimes, but I was just like, I don't know, I'm not feeling inspired. But I feel like lately I've been kind of feeling that itch again. I think I might be doing that again in music. I mean, I gave up on being in a band for a while. I just basically said, like, my bands never work, and I'm never good enough. All the guys I'm in the bands with are better than me, and I've just never felt comfortable with it. And certainly never felt like I could do it. And now I'm in a band again. Now I'm writing music with dudes again, and like that, did not see that coming. So I mean, the future is it's unseeable,
Yeah.
it's unknowable. You can't say for sure,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I understand the sentiment that like where you're at right now, it feels like it's a good place to just kind of put together some ideas and get some of your buddies together and just kind of, have a little a quiet little kind of retirement party and move on to whatever else just feels good. Feels like it's fulfilling or whatever.
It's just so irritating because like I felt like I made the best record I've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like it's just taking so long to try and get it put together.
Yeah.
So
no, I know how that goes for sure. I have a still unfinished record with an old band that had a lot of great music. I just gave it to the other guys. Like, if you guys want to finish it, it's all yours. I'm not, I mean, they wrote most of it anyway. I did some like synth parts, but yeah, no, I know how to like, there's a certain point where you kind of have that threshold of like, now you're over the like sunk cost fallacy question mark, and you're starting to sit and really look at it and go like, I want this finished, but part of the reason I want this finished might just be that it's been sitting on the table for so long. And part of it is that I just loved what I was making and feel so good about it. Yeah.
Dude, there's like some tracks that I have on that record that I'm like, the best stuff I've ever written. And I'm like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? Like,
yeah,
like, because having a label is nice, but it's been years and years and years, and I'm just like, I don't know if I have it in me right now.
I mean, labels are a whole thing too. That was one of the things I was going to bring up earlier. Is I mean, again, you were like, odd how people shape. You're signed, you're freshly signed. And like I said, you were signed in a time where being signed really meant something. Like getting a deal was a big deal. It was important. You kind of needed it. You weren't, I mean, you could do it in the indie scene, but you really needed the labels in a way you don't these days, I feel like. But I feel like the other thing, I mean, you've been doing a lot more independent stuff. You've been kind of off the labels. There's the one issue, of course, is that a label is a commitment. They're not looking for someone who's thinking, I'm going to put this out and I'm going to kind of retire on it, especially not somebody who's not going to be touring on it usually. But I mean, there's other big things that have changed in the industry in that time. I mean, it's like 2004 was back in a time where people were getting like 7-figure deals for debut, debut record contracts with like four records or whatever. You don't see that anymore, even for like really big artists, even for the people who already have hits. You're not seeing that so much. And now I'm hearing, people talking about record labels signing just singles, individual tracks that are like popular on TikTok and stuff. So, you got an artist who put out a record, one of the songs on the record's out all around TikTok and it's getting memed out. And the record label will just come and say, look, we're just going to sign you for a deal for this one song. We're going to cover all that, all the distribution, all of the, all the extra kind of business side of promoting this track, but we don't care about the rest of the record. That's all you. So it's crazy seeing people are getting, like individual masters bought out now by different labels. I got a younger guy who is like 19, I think. And I mean, he's like barely in school, like college, and he's got a few record deals. And again, it's all singles. Like he's getting signed one single at a time from different labels and putting half of it out himself. And yeah, I feel like going at it these days would not be like going at it in the old days. If you're looking for a label trying to get that stuff out, I think it'd be a completely different mess. It'd be completely crazy.
It's kind of something I don't care to navigate anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Like I'm not interested. I make music to make music.
Mm-hmm.
I am not making it for some like marketing executive or whatever.
And I mean, you've been there too. You've already, as the goals go, you did the big stuff. You got the record deal. You had the records and the fan base. You did the Warped Tour. You toured with all the guys who have all these Grammys now and worked with these huge producers who've worked on all these great records and stuff outside of your stuff. And you got that fan base has following you. You've had those, guest spots on other big records. You got all your buddies who are doing all the crazy stuff. You don't have anything to prove there either, Like you've done it. You've accomplished that. You've had a career that most of us would be very, very happy about at any level, Most of my friends who've been there will be happy to, brag about it because it's something that they accomplished and are proud of, even if they're not doing it anymore. Or, like you said, you're doing the music for you. It's your personal, your truth, your expression, your journey outside of, what a record label is going to want out of it or what you would be touring on or any of the kind of, more tricky business stuff there. It's just your expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to navigate, like I said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the dog out. Are you?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Well, hey, man, it's been really cool just chatting with you and getting to pick your brain on that stuff. We, it was fun. It's like I said, like Toby, when we talked about his record, it was all very technical. We're sitting there talking about like the decisions he's made on, like dialing in the tones and stuff, like I said before. But, here it's really cool just kind of getting an experience of, or getting an idea of and stories about just the experience of, being young and doing it and that kind of emotional, what's going on behind the music, because there is, I think a lot of people forget just to have fun with it. I certainly did. That was one of the things that ruined a lot of my bands. Like my bands did not later on feel like a bunch of dudes having fun making it. I think that's very important to, talk about and let people hear because, bit of advice for some people. If the record is all the technical stuff, that stuff's fun. I'm a producer. I love that stuff. My job is to make noise, but having fun doing it and making it for yourself can be really big. And I think that like getting to hear you talk about that, just nostalgia, getting to kind of have our chance to connect on things that we remember from our scenes and stuff like that. There's something about that that's really special. And I think that a lot of people lose sight of that sometimes because I don't know. I think people just get caught up in the rock star stuff or they get caught up in the gearhead stuff and, forget that a lot of times a good record just comes from dudes having a good time with it.
Of course. Yeah. No, I appreciate the opportunity and I'm just becoming a little sleepyhead.
No, I get that, man. I'd like 4 hours and I'll probably be going right back to bed, but it's good having you on, man. Appreciate you coming. We'll definitely have to have you back. We got plenty of records to talk about. I'd love to talk, always open mouth. And like I said, we can get like Brian for the All Human stuff. I really want to dig into either of those or both of those and be cool to get any of the guys in Orbs. I think it'd be really cool to talk about those ones, especially Past Life Regression. That's another my personal favorite records.
I can get Dan on for you.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll keep in touch, and anyone listening, if you are not familiar with any of Adam's stuff, check it out. No pressure. Just listen to whatever you can find, whatever you like. Yeah, listen to whatever you like, and then check out some of the other stuff we're talking about too. If you're not a fan of Counting Crows, you should be. Just throwing that out there. August and Everything After, fantastic record.
Yes.